Video going. All right, I am going to officially open the, what is today, November 1st meeting of the Bridgewater Finance Committee at 7:01 p.m. Our first order of business. Give me a second here. All right, so my first is hopefully everybody's had a chance to read the meeting minutes. Do we have any questions or comments?
Make a motion to approve, Chris.
Chris, thank you, Chris.
Mm,
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Thank you, MJ. Josh, we get a quick roll call for the approval of the meeting minutes?
Nate,
Aye.
Julie,
Aye.
Susie,
I'm going to abstain since I wasn't in attendance.
Chris,
Aye.
MJ,
Aye.
Kathy.
I'm going to abstain too. I wasn't there either.
Okay, thank you. The motion was approved.
Okay.
I wasn't in attendance either, but I believe I can still vote. That's why I did.
All right, so the next order of business is public comments. If we have any public comments, I'd ask that you state your name and your street address for the record, please. Any public comments? Not hearing any, we will move on to our first item of business, which is the budget resolution for FY23. I did listen in on the town council's budget subcommittee meeting here that Tony was on. But Tony, we do have some newer members, so if we could start maybe with a brief history of the budget resolution and what the purpose of the budget resolution is.
I'd be glad to. So a number of years ago, when the town of Bridgewater was really financially, they weren't at their best. And in fact, this year, I think last order you processed, we had 4 million in free cash. They had negative free cash. And part of it had to do with coming out of an economic downturn back in 2009. But some of it had to do with just not clear on the financial direction that the town wanted to take. And they started off with a resolution that was very conservative at the time and really set the tone for budgeting and planning. It's evolved. I won't go through the history of its evolution, but it's evolved to a document that provides a guideline for the town manager and his team of managers to give some general direction as to what is a good budget practice and what are some of the outcomes that we would want to achieve in order long-term and short-term in order to provide the services that the town provides and create what we would refer to, and in the past it was probably not even mentioned, but it's really how can we create a sustainable budget. And that's a sustainable budget is one that year after year, we believe that if we make prudent decisions, wise decisions, thoughtful decisions, and how we spend money, we will take into account the sustainability of each and every decision that we make day in and day out, and certainly none bigger than when we being the town of Bridgewater adopts a budget. So the first part of the document refers to, what are the guiding principles? And I won't read them to you, but there's cash solvency, budget solvency, long-term solvency, service delivery solvency, reserve fund solvency. And now I think that the group may not know, but we have over $6 million in our rainy day fund stabilization fund. Capital, and now we have funds available to pay for the pay-as-you-go cash-based castle assets, and also to maintain a bond rating. So bond rating is driven by really the results of operation over a period of time where you would have a surplus, and it would say this to the rating agencies: oh, they're thoughtful, they're forward-looking, they make good decisions to support the services needed in the present day, as well as keeping in mind the sustainability of the operation. Plus, it has reserves put aside in its rainy day fund. We are at a real good level there at 10%, and they can pay for their capital needs. Do they have a capital improvement program? And are they making investment into their capital assets? So you can see those sound financial conditions. If I was to go back to 2009, 10, 11, I don't think any of those, except for they could pay their bills, but they probably borrowed short-term against tax anticipation in order to pay the bills. And all the other ones were at a lower level than what they aspired to. Today, we have met these, and now it's to stay the course. And then it gets into budgetary practices. And I won't read it to you, but each part of this is to look at how do you budget? What's your thought process? What's your philosophical view, again, short and long term? There's also a targeted piece for where we want to build in a surplus at the end of the year. The surplus comes from, as you know, from last time I spoke, two real sources. One, on the budget side, and it's been driven recently by the inability to hire folks to replace positions. Budgeted for, monies are there, but we don't expend them. So that's part of what flows to the bottom line. The first few years I was here, we were spending close to 100% of our targeted budget number. On the revenue side, as I mentioned last time when I spoke with you folks, it's really on the local receipts. So we look to have a surplus on the local receipt side of our revenue stream, again, so that we can take care of, as it states, capital improvements, capital equipment, unexpected or unforeseen expenses, and so forth. All right. Then it talks about what our goal is on the stabilization fund, and then it talks about our approach to revenue estimating. The overall expenditure piece speaks to, let's pay attention to the cost drivers. And the cost drivers really are salaries, wages, and benefits. That's 80% of the town costs in those areas. And then the town did not, for the longest period of time, replace assets that were really completely overused and in some cases unsafe, didn't maintain their assets through repairs and general maintenance. And it's suffice to say, we've come a long way in the last six plus years, where the town does have a much newer capital equipment, much newer capital assets, such as new snow plows and sanders and sidewalk plows, and the painting of the town hall this year, this summer, is a great maintenance item where we spent $30,000 in order to maintain that asset. So all the things that we want to make sure are getting done is covered in expenditures. And then the town manager will come back and update the goals for 2023. Right now, these are last year's goal. He may want to highlight and or add some things there, and he will do that. So he will be coming back to you with some modifications there. Nothing that I can foresee will substantially impact any of the above. And at the end of this, then we move into our budget season, and we use this as a guide as we make budgetary decisions. And that's the resolution document. We get input from or adoption by the Budget and Finance Subcommittee and the Finance Committee. Nate will have a joint meeting with you with the Budget and Finance Subcommittee. And they in the last few years, maybe the last 5 years, they've met and come to a consensus on any changes that they made. And it's been a very forward-looking process.
All right, thank you, Tony. And before we kind of open it up a little bit, I do want to just make a comment to some of the newer members. that this budget resolution, I mean, we certainly could take action on tonight, but we're aiming to have a joint meeting with the town council budget subcommittee on the 15th, which is Monday. And I anticipate we'll probably have another meeting ourselves on the 10th if we have new business referred to us by town council on the 2nd. So at this point, we're kind of hoping we'll have 2 more meetings. And then we will have that important one with the budget subcommittee on the 15th to go into the budget resolution in more detail. At this point, before we talk about a specific item, Tony, I'm going to just open it up to the committee and questions, comments on the budget resolution.
Thanks for that background. Always very insightful, Tony. I'm just curious. I wasn't able to find last year's. What was the target for the free cash for last year? I know the prior year was 1.25%, and then this year it's.
It was
1.5.
yeah, 1.5 this 2022. The year before it was 1.75. So they went down 0.25% in the recommendation. So this number 1.5 is what was voted on last year as well. Same number.
Okay. And then I guess I know, when we talked at the workshop, probably next year, the following year, start seeing an impact with the motor vehicle excise. Do you think the target will be impacting that will be impacting the target moving forward?
Well, the good news and the bad news is by the end of, we'll put out our original, the town manager will put out his original high level budget document February 1st, I believe is the date, that serves me correct. And that's just a high level kind of like, this is what we see as of today. What is good is that we will have the commitment for the large motor vehicle excise tax by the end of January. So we're going to know right away whether or not we're seeing a significant impact on our billing and therefore our collections. So the good news and bad news is we'll know. Hopefully it's better news than I anticipate. So that would reshuffle things a lot potentially.
Tony, what was that date you
Thanks,
hope
Tony.
to have them by?
What's that?
What was the date you gave Chris for the commitment?
It's usually by the end of January. The bills might not go out to the 1st of February, but we'll have the commitment number from the Registry of Motor Vehicle in January, by the end of the month.
Chris, you kind of went right to the heart of what was the biggest part of the discussion with the town council's budget subcommittee, which was that number. So Tony, maybe if you could just go into a little more detail. What is that? Is that 2A in the budget resolution? If you could just maybe go into a little more, because that's the percentage you were talking about, Chris, correct?
Yeah, I believe so, right, Chris?
Right. Yeah. So it's 2A. That's correct.
Okay,
Right.
and so
So-
that was.
So there was I think a healthy debate and discussion regarding that number. I can't say that we have been really accurate in our estimating on what the final free cash number is. I do know that the town manager and I are conservative in our estimating there because it's really our only source of available funds to fund our capital plan. All right. So there was a healthy discussion regarding, can we do this better, and how can we sequence things differently around capital? And I think there was a genuine intention to just do a better job at coming up with that number. And I took that challenge to say, yes, I think we can make some process changes to when we do the operating budget. We could also have held on to our free cash, if you will, and and overlaid, or at least process overlaid, the capital order with the capital budget, so we could see a better connection between the equipment piece and the operations piece. And I think for having a view of line of sight, that those revenues that come in that are surplus immediately go into the next year's budget planning process as it relates to capital. It's a different approach. Ours is kind of like after the fact. They'd like to see it after the fact, but more tightly placed the capital order with the operating budget. And I think that would help the residents and all that go through the budget process to understand how closely connected they are. So if that was part of the process, then we might be able to get a little less conservative, because what would happen is if there aren't funds available at the end of the year, then what's going to get hit is our capital plan, because we know what we need for an operating budget. We know what revenue we need for an operating budget. So that might be a way to be a little bit more in alignment in the process steps. But fundamentally, I still am very cautious, because the local receipts part, a lot of it, we haven't got to an exact science now. I'm telling you, we're getting much better on the motor vehicle, and then we got to start to look at, and we are improving the way we estimate our permits and our some of those fees for wiring permits, building permits, and so forth. We're tightening up the information gathering process so that we can get even tighter on our estimating. So I know this might sound a lot like gobbledygook, and I hope it doesn't, because this has been a 6-year process. And I'll give you for instance, new growth in the old budget resolution would start off at $350,000, and the resolution says you will start with only $350,000 in new growth. So those who went through the exercise with me the other night, you can see how that gets added to our tax base, and that's what we would typically have used in the past for planning. Well, now we used a number about 1.2, please, it's off the top of my head. And now that the number is getting finalized, we might be within $60,000 of what our estimate was. In the past, we were hundreds of thousands of dollars more conservative than our estimate was. So we're moving in the right direction. And I anticipate that our local receipt numbers will be tighter this year than they were last year. Again, because of the municipal finance world, if we become short in revenue or short revenue during the fiscal year, we have to cut budgets, or we have to make transfers from our stabilization fund. If you make transfers consistently from your stabilization fund during the course of the fiscal year, you're saying to the bond rating agencies that you really aren't good in estimating. The bond rating agencies will reward you for having surplus. They will not reward you in any way, shape, or form for having deficits. So again, we live in a very conservative ecosystem called municipal finance. I went a little bit off the rails there, but there's a lot going on. We hope to tighten up the numbers. We hope to tighten up the capital process as it relates to the budgetary process. And I think over the next year that will happen. I still want surplus at the end of the year.
All right, and then really what that, you heard Tony say that last year, it was 1.75%, now it's 1.5%. And, I'll let the town councils, when we meet at the joint meeting, they can maybe explain it better. But I think, Tony, they were kind of getting at that they feel maybe the town manager's hands could be tied if we have too high of a percentage.
And I spoke up, and I was speaking in concert with the town manager. No, he and I are 100% on board. He doesn't feel his hands are tied. He's looking at it realistically and conservatively so that we can sustain budgets. Last year, just remember, we didn't have a lot of budgets that needed to be settled, contracts that needed to be settled. This year, we're settling contracts. The school is settling contracts. So we're going to have our unique challenges with the salaries, wages, and benefits piece of our operating budget this coming year with the current staffing levels both the school and the town have.
Okay, thank you. Anybody have any questions, comments on the budget resolution at this time? Well. Okay, well, you're going to say something, Kathy?
I was just gonna say it was really helpful.
And like I said, we will be taking this back up again. So if for right now, I'll ask one last time, does anybody have anything they'd like to ask Tony? Okay, so we're just gonna table this or hold this because we will be coming back to the budget resolution. Okay, so our next order of business is, let's see, order FY 22-016, capital appropriation for the Memorial Building Project. Tony, can you give us some background here?
This is the cost of that project is going up because of really the cost of construction right now and the escalations in the due to supply chains, the cost escalations. The scope of that, the work gets more defined as we get closer to design, and then finally you get the numbers put before you when we get the responses to the request for bid. Kimberly has worked very closely with our architect, and these numbers that we're asking for are going to be required to get this project completed. It's going to be a large portion of the memorial will be housed by the DPW staff, including the administration from water and sewer. They're in a cottage still up by Legion Field, and this will be a permanent office space for them, as well as a DPW director, the engineer, and his executive assistant. And so this would get the project done, and we need it to move forward. Council has already voted to approve. Subcommittee, excuse me, the subcommittee.
And if I remember right, Tony, there wasn't too much discussion just with the source of the funds was. I
Yep,
believe.
and that's why I went into that piece of it. That's why it's being shared by water fund, sewer fund, and the capital fund, which is the general fund stabilization, capital stabilization.
Is there any chance that not all of this would get used?
And under any other project, and this can happen, if there are funds left, those funds are transferred out and used for other capital items. And that would be have to be submitted through an order to this council and through this group in order to move those surplus funds.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
Okay, thank you, Kathy. Good question. Anybody else?
I was just ultimately curious how much higher the bids came back. And, you know, I obviously we all know, we can see it real time with the supply chain issues, even as consumers. Are there already funds in this?
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
So we're asking, and if you need further explanation, I don't want to go too far afield. Yeah, so to use round numbers, we're going to need $1.4 million to execute the low bid.
That's all I had. Thanks, Tony.
You're welcome.
Nate, I had a couple of questions, either for Tony or for Mrs. Williams, relating to the project itself, relating to cost. So you said it was going to be 1.4 million for the lowest bid.
Again, round numbers.
Okay. Did anybody try for grant money at all? Did we eventually try for any of that? Because I know when I was still with the town manager's office, I know they had tried for some historic preservation funds through, I believe, the Secretary of State's historic preservation program. Was there ever any success with a successive application? Because I know, Kim, you and I had worked on one at one point. So did we ever try to do another one?
I'll defer to Kim.
No, I did have conversation with the state after we were not successful, and they did not believe that we were going to be successful so we had to continue to move the project forward. If you remember, MJ, from the time we started the project until getting here was some significant amount of time, and the project had changed a little bit. So we didn't have information to give to them that we had when we initially started. As you know, it was going to be more of an assembly space before, and now it's returning to its original, not its original purpose, but the purpose that it's been used for the last 25 years that I've been here, office space.
Okay, all right. No other questions, Nate?
Okay, thank you. You know, it kind of brought up a question in my mind, though. I don't even know if it doesn't necessarily have to apply to this, but is it possibly to retroactively get such funds for these types of projects?
Not generally, no.
No.
I can say that the town is, we are very, very aggressive at, and that speaks to Michael and Kimberly and CED, at making any funds that are out there that we could avail ourselves to. They've done yeoman's work. And if you ever want an update on the millions of dollars that they have obtained, I'd be more than happy to provide you that information. But that's a great question, MJ and Nate.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, any other discussion, questions? Chair will entertain a motion, not hearing any.
So
Motion
moved,
to approve.
Chris.
So we got MJ and Chris. Josh, if you want to do a roll call, please.
Nate,
Aye.
Julie,
Aye.
Susie,
Aye.
Chris,
Aye.
MJ,
Aye.
Kathy.
Aye.
Thank you. The motion was approved.
Okay, thank you, everyone. Moving on to the next order of business, fiscal FY 22-017, transfer order for the old Scotland Links Golf Course pump. Tony, if you can just give us a quick background.
So vertical pump is in the major pump station for the irrigation system, drawing the water out from the ground. That vertical pump is as old as the golf course. I guess we're in the 20+ year range. It's gone past its useful life. It's obviously critical to irrigation. This is the time of year to do that type of work where irrigation is not an issue for the course. And in fact, these funds are being drawn from the retained earnings, and that's a surplus. And the balance in the retained earnings was $414,000. It will be reduced by $120,000 if this order is approved and passed.
Okay, thank you, Tony. You answered my question about the difference afterwards.
The only question that I had is this, are we contracting this out, or is this 120,000 strictly for the pump, and then town employees are going to be doing the work for it?
Yeah, this will take a specialty and expertise, so it includes the installation and any of the equipment that they will use in order to bring that vertical pump to the pump station and place it properly, and any other any other major lines that come out of the pump station will also be updated within a certain number of feet from that, and they will be doing the full delivery and installation for the appropriated amount.
Do we already have a quote for this or?
Yes, we do. Yes, we do.
And was it a bidding thing, Tony, or?
Yes, we had to go and put this out for a request for, I know what, excuse me for not knowing the exact general law, but yes, we followed all the procurement and we received multiple bids, and this is in fact the lowest bid and a very reputable firm.
Tony, question, is this outside of the capital improvement plan or the 5-year capital improvement plan for that part of our municipality? I know the golf course has their own plan probably at some point, but because the pump is over 25 years old and the rest of the irrigation system is pretty much, if I recall, with the exception of the part that was damaged during a lightning strike a few years ago, most of it is pretty much original equipment. Are we looking at this pump being the first part of a multi-part replacement project for the irrigation system?
So we do have a capital improvement program for the golf course, and useful life, the way an irrigation system works is you really have your pumps and then you have your valves, and the valves typically are where you see water that comes out of the ground. Those are your sprinkler heads, and then there are valves throughout the process. The piping itself has a much longer useful life than 25 years. So as things have gone, they have replaced the heads, they've replaced some valves, and so those are general upkeep right now. So it's not on the horizon that the whole irrigation system would have to be replaced, at least not on the 5-year horizon we have in front of us. But it is on the plan, is an identified item.
Thank you, Tony. Nate, no further questions from me.
Okay, thank you. You know, and I know from volunteering with Bridgewater Youth Soccer, obviously there's quite a complex irrigation system down there at those fields, and repairs are costly. And if you don't make the repairs, it leads to even more excessive and further degradation of the system. If you have a bad pump, then you can have bad pressure going through the systems, or intermittent pressure, et cetera. So it can be one of those things too that's just best to stay ahead of and save future costs. Okay, does anybody else have anything for Tony on this subject? Okay, not hearing anything, the chair would entertain a motion.
Motion to approve.
Thank you, MJ.
Second, Chris.
Thank you, Chris. Josh, if we could do a roll call, please.
Nate,
Aye.
Julie,
Aye.
Chris,
Aye.
MJ,
Aye.
Kathy.
Aye.
Thank you. The motion was approved.
All right, thank you. And moving on to our final order for the evening, FY 22-018, the Plymouth American Rescue Plan Acts votes. Give us a little bit of background.
So the county took it upon themselves back when CARES money was allotted by the federal government. Counties of a certain population, I believe it was driven by population, had the opportunity to accept the CARES funds directly from the federal government. I think I have mentioned that in the past, and in fact, the Plymouth County, we weren't initially too pleased with that because the county hadn't really administered, and it was over $90 million, a project of that size. But in meeting with the county treasurer, Mr. O'Brien, we were pleasantly surprised as we told him, and that thought the process worked extremely well. And we've been able to avail ourselves under the CARES Act as much as we've needed. And we'll be finishing up that as of December 31st. Now, the ARPA money, they again decided to accept on behalf of the seasoned towns in Plymouth County, and they will have a similar process. I will be with the town manager and the finance team and the assistant town manager. We will be and have identified at rough level monies that we want to use for certain things under the American Rescue Plan Act. And this just gives authorization for a designee, in this case, the finance director, on behalf of the town manager, to submit requests for distribution under the various categories. And he is then given authorization to accept those funds under the under this order. And in fact, that's what you'll be voting on to allow us to request and access those funds to use in line with the ARPA guidelines. And so that's what you have before you.
Okay, thank you, Tony. ARPA guidelines, what are they?
There's really three major categories. There's a fourth, but the biggest one that we're going to be able to take advantage of as it relates to sewer and water infrastructure costs. The next one has to do with lost revenue and the calculating of what lost revenue did the town incur, not only in FY21, but possibly in 22 and 23. And those who are in finance believe that, you know, the end of 22 into 23 is when we're going to start to see, and we're already seeing that, an impact on our revenue. I've already mentioned motor vehicle excise. We also have some current concerns on our ambulance receipts. And so that's another category. Then there's some premium pay for those frontline workers who had to work in extraordinary circumstances. And there's a calculation and that we can come to as a financial policy, the town manager and his leadership team. So there's some monies that we could use for that. And lastly, there's another piece that has to do with infrastructure, but it has to do with really broadband and wireless infrastructure that you may need in your community, city, or town. The targeted groups for that piece of it are not typically in the Northeast. Those might be Middle America, heartland areas where infrastructure for those pieces do not exist or aren't up to par. And then lastly, there are some emergency monies available for some roadway work and such, but again, more emergency based, repair based. It's not infrastructure like a new road or a new sidewalk, except for an area that may be damaged due to certain circumstances. You can get a lot of damage from your roadways during spring thaw. You could have damage due to water breaks to the roadway and so forth. So there's a small piece there. We envision really using the funds to replace revenue that either we've lost or leave available so that we can request it on future revenues that we may lose as a result of this whole COVID experience, and to offset the costs of our major
Anthony.
Yeah. Hello.
I don't know what that was, Tony.
A major infrastructure for the building of the water treatment plant or water line infrastructure. Do we have someone bombing this meeting? Can you hear me?
I can hear you,
Yep,
Tony.
we can hear you.
Yeah, we got bombed once in another meeting and I don't know who just called my name. Amy,
I removed them.
you did remove them?
Yep.
Thank you. Sorry about that.
Yeah, I was wondering what's going on there.
Yeah, that was odd. I have a question. So Plymouth gets the money and then we have to go to Plymouth to get it?
Yeah, we're just gonna have to submit a request for, let's say, we're gonna need $3 million to offset the water treatment plant. And they would disperse that and then we'd do the reporting to them.
So, because I actually do a lot of CARES stuff with Bristol, but does Plymouth have to like set the sort of guidelines so all the towns have to do the same thing?
No, they're just really going to be the administrating group. We will be requesting it and based on the descriptive that would be outlined in the guidelines that we would qualify for. And then there'd be a full distribution in that amount for that particular purpose. And then we would be responsible for all the accounting and then the reporting in on that.
My understanding is that the state is really particular about auditing all this CARES money.
Nobody cares, really.
Yeah, that's scary. The state, we've already had our auditors come in and are you part, you don't get yours from the county, right? You get it from the state?
Yeah.
We go directly to the county and the county has their own auditing firm. So they're auditing everything that we've
Oh,
submitted.
okay.
So we already have that covered.
Okay. I was just wondering if you would get audited by the state or if they would audit Plymouth County, but it sounds like you've got that covered.
Yes, the auditing firm will audit Plymouth County to make sure we're within guidelines. Our auditor is auditing our submittals to them. And yes, at any time, the federal government, because the county accepted, they could come back and look to get audit the county and so forth. Yes. But in this case, it's a
Hey,
little
Kathy, I
different.
was gonna ask those same questions of Tony, so thank you.
In this case, on the opera side, we're going to get two streams of revenue. One revenue stream is going to come directly from the county. One revenue stream is coming from the state. We've already requested $1.5 million allotment. We didn't need authorization from this order to do that. And there was a distribution of 1.4 million. We will get another distribution of 1.4 million. So we're in the let's move slowly in the spending and let's really understand what's going on with our economic conditions and what benefit to the town these funds could serve. And this just allows us to get at that.
I'm sorry if I'm asking too many questions.
No, please.
So is there a chance, I have no idea about the other towns, but is there a chance like they could use up the money and then it wouldn't be available for us?
No, the way it works is immediately they've allotted based on population. That's what they did with the CARES money, a certain portion. So we were allotted over $4 million by the county for CARES. All right. And then they went to a fifth allotment and they gave us some more. And then they came back and says, hey, if you need some more, we can do a sixth allotment, but those who might need it more than you do, let us know. And then we gave them communication. No, our allotment will do. On the same thing is going to happen on the ARPA funds. There will be an allotted amount. I think the county got 111 million. So if we do it based on population, we'll receive over $4 million just by doing the math, probably close to 5. That will be available to us. And once it's allotted, it doesn't go to anyone else until we give this high sign that, nope, we're done. We've used everything that we possibly can. In this particular case, on the ARPA side, I envision us using 100% of those ARPA funds.
I know the sewer and water infrastructure.
Alone.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, right. So is it limited? I mean, could we potentially get all $4+ million just for one of these 4 categories, or
Yes,
is, do
yes, we can
have
do it
to-
any way we want. We
Okay.
could use all the money for one category. So the town manager, myself, and the assistant town manager and our leadership team and really everyone will put their heads together. What we have a guiding principle is, how can we benefit the taxpayer the most? Right? So example, sewer, only a certain portion of the taxpayer has a sewer. Water, 99.9% of the taxpayers have water. So if you can offset costs to the water operation and you don't have to pass it through to the users, then you're in fact reducing the user cost. So that's why we may lean towards water. On the revenue replacement side, we got to watch out for motor vehicle excise tax and ambulance, because those are revenues that we use in the general fund to run our operating budget. And again, the wider population benefits from those funds. That's our guiding principle.
Okay, thank you, Tony. We have any more questions, comments for Tony?
I have a follow-up one, Nate. Tony, out of the funds, is there anything that would be allowed as a use for obtaining maybe capital improvements related to green infrastructure, perhaps, upgrading or changing over things to Energy Star compliant items or upgrading generators at some point?
No, not at this time.
Okay. Thank you, Tony. No other questions, Nate.
Okay, thank you, MJ. Anybody else? Julie?
All set, thank you.
Oh, I saw your microphone off.
Oh, I don't know. I didn't know if we were getting ready to vote. Getting ready for once.
All right, do we have anything else for Tony on this order?
Make a motion to approve, Chris.
Thank you.
Second.
That was you, MJ, right?
Yep.
Josh, if you could do a roll call, please.
Nate,
Aye.
Julie,
Aye.
Chris,
Aye.
MJ,
Aye.
Kathy.
Aye.
Thank you. The motion was approved.
Okay, and real quick before we go to our favorite motion, just a couple of things. So dates. So as we mentioned at the beginning of the conversation, we're looking at, I would assume that we would have a regular meeting on Wednesday, the 10th. And then, like I said, the budget subcommittee is asked to meet jointly on the 15th. So we could just meet on the 15th, I guess, and handle everything. But at the same time, if we had business referred from the town council, I think I would rather handle that on the 10th. And then when we meet with the budget subcommittee on the 15th, we can focus on the budget resolution. Anybody have any thoughts on that?
I'm in agreement with that, Nate, only because it would be prudent to take care of committee business first and then have the other time with the Budget and Finance Subcommittee fully, totally dedicated to just dealing with the stuff for the upcoming FY23 budget. I'd be wholly supportive of that.
Okay, great. Anybody else? Any thoughts on that? All right.
I have
so,
to decide if I'm going to be a nice wife. That's my husband's birthday, so there's an outside chance I might not make the 10th, but I'm definitely available for the 15th.
we got 9 members now, so I'm really hoping we can get
Okay.
5.
I know, and I don't mean it. Every one of my birthdays fell on Wednesday this year. So far.
Well, we had 5.
I'll be fine for the 15th, but the 10th, I'm not available, unfortunately.
All right, so Josh, we have 9 members here. We have 4 that I believe aren't with us right now. So Josh, let's plan on November 10th.
Okay.
All right, and then we'll plan on the joint meeting on the 15th. And if we have worst comes to worst, if we can't meet on the 10th, we can go to the 15th. But I rather, obviously, like MJ said, to get done the 10th. So the fun, on the 15th in the joint meeting, a lot of times, so it'll be the town council, right? That will get the notice from, Josh. Is that what happened last year?
Sorry, what was that?
I said the notice, since it's a joint meeting.
Mhm.
Do you
And
put
that'll
out
come
the
from
notice?
council.
It'll come from council, right?
Mhm.
All right, and Josh, if we could just make sure we forward that to our committee.
Oh, yeah, I'm handling their work right now. So.
Oh, you
I'll
are?
just-
Okay.
I'll
All right.
Yep.
Easy enough. Okay, then a couple of quick things I want to talk about. Last year, we had a FinCom subcommittee. And what that small committee did was they met with the budget subcommittee a few additional extra times during the course of the budget season. It worked out nice. We required a quorum of 2. We had 4 with an alternate. And I think we just had 2 or 3 meetings and reported back to the finance committee during the budget season. So just, if you're interested in doing that, just keep that in mind, and we can talk about on the 10th. The other thing is it'd be nice if we had a liaison to listen in on the school committee, especially their budget meetings. It helps kind of keep the communication a little clearer with them. So, I'd ask that you think about that too, if somebody would like to take on that. And then the final thing is the budget calendar. Me and Tony and Michelle, she's here, did sit down a little while, maybe a week or so ago, and we discussed the upcoming budget calendar. There already was a change to it. At some point though, here in the near future, we'll distribute it to everybody. And then it's just kind of, you can see dates that we have to meet as we go through the budget season, and it ends in the final town council vote. When is that? May, beginning of May?
Yeah, sometime in May, yep.
Sometime in that. So it just kind of gives something to focus on, but it does change and it does move around. It is a dynamic document as we move forward. And that's all I have.
Nate,
Yeah.
I would like to volunteer for the group that would be meeting with the council's budget and finance subcommittee, if that's okay.
Okay. Yeah, and I think what we did last year, like I said, we meet on the 10th, we'll do a little vote of some sort and just kind of officially create the committee. Like I said, we had 4 last year. 1 was the alternate on there. And like I said, we just required 2 to make the quorum. I think the town council, they need 3, I think, for their quorum. All right, thank you, MJ.
You're welcome.
And essentially I'll be on it kind of de facto. And so we got 2. Okay, thank you. Does anybody else have an additional item they'd like to bring up?
Make a motion to adjourn.
Thank you, Chris.
Second?
Thank you,
No, that was me, Nate.
It was MJ,
Oh, that's
actually.
you,
But
MJ. Okay, thanks.
you-
Yeah, I keep,
It's okay,
I
she can take credit.
I see Julie's open mic. I keep thinking she saw it talking.
So,
Okay,
Sorry.
Josh, if we could have a roll call, please.
Nate,
Aye.
Julie,
aye.
Chris,
Aye.
MJ,
Aye.
Kathy.
Aye.
Thank you. The motion was approved. The meeting is adjourned.
Okay, thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Have a good
Thank
evening.
you. Thank you, Tony. Thank you, Kim.
Have a good night,
Yes.
guys.
Okay, bye.
Good night.